Hi everyone, I'm joined with Tom Pickering and David Berkeley, some of the experts of the Eximius Executive team. We are going to be discussing some topics of the week, and one of the questions we've had this week was from a client asking, what are other clients doing? So before we give an exposure to what people need right now, what people actually want to do, what services they're using, which is having a good impact on their business and might inspire you guys at home as leaders of stuff you could either be doing with your teams or engaging people with to help push you forward. So David, what's been the sort of popular requests and challenges you've been faced with from clients recently?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. I've got two clients who are at a very similar stage at the moment. They've just gone through, both gone through reasonably large investment rounds, and they're taking their sort of smaller teams to much bigger teams. So I think both of them 12 months ago were probably 10 people or fewer. They're now both around 40 people. One of them is going to be at 140 come the end of the year. Another one will be, I think, about 60, 70. So you suddenly go through this huge growth phase where you go from everybody knowing everybody to we need to put some sort of leadership accountability structure in there. So for both of them, I'm writing some sort of leadership development plans. There's in lots of companies, you've got different leadership styles, people who come from different backgrounds, taking different best practices in places, and it becomes a bit of a hodgepodge of management styles. And it's not, and quite often in companies, you don't get, this is how we do it. This is our style of doing it. This is our methodology. This is our culture. This is our values. This is how it sort of plays out. So it's really fun, quite a stretching exercise for both of them in slightly different cultures. As to how to do that and how to kind of build programs, because the danger for both of them is you get to a point where you go, actually it's easier for me to go and hire a manager from somewhere else as opposed to developing in-house the people we already have. And that has a few culture challenges, because often people are going to hire someone from a great company and that person will come and take the culture from that company and just plug and play into that business. And that's not necessarily always what people want. And then you sort of get to that whole, as I was saying earlier, you get to the challenge of lots of different cultures going on under one business and lots of different ways of managing. And you get the disconnect from people in the team who've been there for a year or two, and they suddenly become quite fragmented from the management team when you add this sort of middle layer of management team. So that is what I'm doing at the moment. It's quite fun, actually, really fun, really challenging. Blank bits of paper for both of them. So it's just trying to really help them articulate what they're looking for and how they want to do it and go from there. But yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Great. And do they have people that will deliver this program? Or is there an expectation that external people deliver it? Have they worked that out yet?
So I will deliver it initially. And then the idea would be to sort of internally train some people up in parts of it to take that on. But it'd be very much working with the senior management, middle management teams. Just from things like giving feedback, something that's done so badly, so many places, but just having a way of doing it, or just making sure that people are at a certain level. So yeah, I'll do it initially, and then the idea being that they can internally train themselves.
And the management team, are they seeing this as like a offload to you? You go sort it, or they sort of realise that they're sort of integral to the actual delivery of this and actual shaping of it?
Yeah, it's gone from one to the other. I think they've realised that they were looking at sort of, great, this is something you can solve. Okay, here are some questions for you. Oh, this isn't something we can fully outsource. No, this is something you need to be an active part. And it's important they're an active part in it, because it's not my business, it's their business. I want them to talk about how they want to drive it and what the key things are in that business for them. So as it's gone on, I do more and more typing, which is what I hate. They do more and more talking, and we're really getting there. It's really fun.
It sounds great. And Tom, what about you? What's been the requests from clients recently that's been interesting to you?
Yeah, I think something very interesting happening, which is actually I've worked in a lot of growth businesses, but actually I think growth is becoming a rude word, Nick. I think profit, sustainable profit, and steady growth, I think is very much the flavour of the things I'm involved with, and also local. So there's a very interesting situation where a business I've been working with for the last 12 months or so is looking to create new sites without really understanding what the core business is. And so when you replicate something elsewhere, you're not quite sure what you're replicating. And also, it's extraordinary. I think, I've talked a lot about this, but it's very real in my world, around relationships, really intimate relationships with customers, and this concept of the jazz band, and have actually achieved that, I'm pleased to say, in a couple of businesses locally, and it's just remarkable. It's also the basis of profit. The challenge is, having picked up that and then moving into a different area. How do you do that? And you really do need to understand what your core business is. You need to also, as David just said, really understand what is the leadership development, because whilst these businesses are not sophisticated, right, and I'm pleased to say the sophistication actually comes in the development of the people, and what is it like to do business with, and that's very much around people relationships, Nick. So there's a real degree of sophistication which I love around that. It's also building profitable businesses, because as you well know, I love businesses that make money. And I tend to dislike businesses that are always looking to, grow through raising money. I think that's historically quite a damaging route. And I think if you can grow a business profitably and fund itself, it's a far better place to be, and it's a far more solid place to be. So yeah, it's truly exciting to work in these environments. And I think we're also in a period of actually putting growth behind us, and actually moving into the new now, and actually regrowing businesses from the bottom up, Nick. So really exciting work, and lots of learning points for from small businesses right the way through to the likes of Rolls-Royce or some of these Jack Flash tech startups. Exactly the same challenges they've got. So much learning. So yeah, really having a very exciting local time at the moment, Nick.
Perfect. And so it sounds like the danger for that business is that they're doing well, right? But they might not know the real source of why they're doing well, right?
Yeah.
And maybe some complacency that we can just mirror it, copy it, and it will just happen again, right? Which is a dangerous route. So part of your counsel there and advisory is actually helping them understand what the business is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's very difficult to be objective about yourself, Nick, and what you've achieved, and so I try to get to the bottom of that, and I don't have, and I also, take counsel from other people to try and define what that is, and that then defines what your core business is, and then you've got the underlying capabilities that sit below that, Nick. So, and those underlying capabilities, for example, conversation in one of these businesses is critical. So how do you develop a conversation, Nick? And so the sort of actions that we're putting into place is actually, rather than going to have conversations with people you want to have conversations with, speak to those people who don't, because that's going to grow your business. So that sort of interaction, very, very interesting. So, putting metrics in place is to drive conversations that you don't want to speak, people you don't want to speak to, for example. Really, really. But of course, that then creates a good platform from which to build your business, because you're creating your own sales force. And these people are not going to talk about price. They're going to be quite happy to be there, because there's this issue which is very real around people feeling a bit isolated and nervous about going out, and this is all about relationships. So it's a really truly exciting experience, Nick, I'm describing, but quite difficult to replicate and to be objective about.
No, absolutely. And David, I mean, it's great what you're going to be doing with these guys on helping structure their processes, internal training to develop the management teams. What's the other sort of work you're looking forward to doing, and the type of people you're looking forward to helping this year?
Interesting, often the leaders of those companies as well. So I know they've got a philosophy for developing people, which is why they brought me in to help with the team, but it's also then really working with those leaders and really helping them. And it was the chap who's the CEO, this company going from, I think, 40 to 140 people, this year. He said in a message to the team, he said, "Look, guys, I want a growth mindset across the entire company, and that starts with me. I've got a coach. I see him every other week, and I am working on stuff constantly. I'm not talking to you about it, but I am working to improve myself as a leader and to improve myself." And he's a very successful guy. He's already sold a business. He by most metrics, he's a successful business person. But he's always looking to improve, and I think that's where I get most excitement. is working with people who genuinely want to improve, who aren't just happy with where they are today, but just really looking to sharpen up skills. And there's always a little 1% differences that can have a big compound effect across a business. And that's my real heart and real passion is, that one-to-one stuff.
Perfect. And obviously you do quite a lot of that at the moment, which is keeping you very busy. I've always wondered how draining is it? how exhausting is that, the one-to-one? I imagine it's quite intense.
It can be very intense. Strangely, I get a lot of energy from it. So I can have days where I do, going back a year and a half, where you'd be going all over London doing sessions at lots of different businesses, and I'd come back absolutely bouncing. And I think that comes back to just doing what I love doing. And so, yes, it can be draining. Yes, I definitely build in time in my days. So I'm not doing back-to-back sessions with people, because I think sometimes you need to decompress your brain from one and clear your head for the next. But I absolutely love it, and I get so much energy from doing it. And strangely, I feel more tired when I have lighter days. Because you're more time probably thinking about a couple of meetings as opposed to the 4 or 5 that you could do. But yeah, no, I absolutely love doing it, and it can be very draining. And what's interesting is most of my clients usually get to a point where they go, I've just realized I don't pay you necessarily for the time that we have. I pay you for the thinking time around the time we have. So often in between sessions, you're sort of thinking about them going, oh, okay, yeah, what about this? And, they're a bit like this. That might mean that would happen. And then you're sort of planning 3 or 4 conversations, and you come back to them with really fresh ideas, which I think they really appreciate. Partly because I don't cram my diary completely.
Perfect. And Tom, you obviously help get businesses talking and to the root of sometimes what the problem is or what the opportunity is. When do you say no to helping someone? If someone comes to you, well, is there some criteria where you'd say, look, I'm actually not prepared to help these people? Is there a certain attitude or mindset that people need to have to actually be open to receiving your help?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the acid test is, Nick, can I make a difference? Yes or no? And if I can't make a difference, the answer is no. There are a few situations like that, but there are some where there's a misalignment in terms of outcomes. So there may be a pursuance of a strategy. So when you ask people to describe what the outcome is they're looking for, you think, well, that's just something that is either illegal or just stupid, or which is can be a bit of a problem. The second one is, do they actually want to do anything different? Quite a few people just want to do more of the same. And thirdly, will they give this the space to do it? I think the other side of this is, but like David, I love what I do in a similar sort of way. But I think the other side of this is actually I've spent a huge amount of my time, take 12 months ago, I was pretty good at company turnaround. But actually in the last 12, 13 months, actually the whole basis for businesses has really been shaken. And I've spent a substantial amount of my time trying to understand what are the skill shifts and what are that we need to cope with the new now, and the leadership traits, which, to be honest, I've struggled to articulate myself, but I've really beginning to get to grips with that, Nick, which is a really truly exciting place. But it leaves me out on a bit of a limb at the moment, communicating some of these issues. But when I engage one-to-one with a client, it all becomes very real very quickly. So it moves out of rehearsal mode into results mode very quickly. But yeah, the acid test is if I can't achieve those 3 outcomes that I mentioned earlier, and there isn't an immediate benefit I can make to an organisation, I just simply won't engage in it.
Yeah, and you're with the growth clients, it's fairly different to sometimes the turnaround world you help with, where speed is of the essence.
It's not actually, well, yes and no. You say that actually, but the interesting thing about turnaround is you're cutting a business back to a defendable core, Nick. And actually, so it's like a startup. You're actually reinventing the whole business from scratch. So it is exactly what David described in terms of leadership capability, albeit it's very often smaller business, and you're shedding activity organizations pick up along the way. So if you look at a lot of startups, I come at it from the perspective I talked about before in terms of what's the core business, what should you do and what shouldn't you do, and what are you going to grow, as opposed to just accept all of that stuff at face value. So there is a real strength to company turnaround, and it's very weirdly similar. And in fact, if you ever look at the financial before and after in a good company turnaround, Nick, it looks like nothing has happened, oddly enough, because there's no impact to the business. It just takes off again, and that's like a startup. So there's a very weird parallel with a company turnaround in a startup and a growth business.
That's great. Well, hopefully for everyone at home, that answers a few of the questions coming, because it's a broad range of skills on the team here, and the challenges we're faced with change daily, which we love. It's exciting, but we feel that the different personalities, different types of experience and exposures enable us to actually help people straight away. If you want to talk to us about getting some help, getting an idea of the different ranges of products and help that can be advised, reach out. Love to hear from you, and like just start talking, building a relationship, maybe come on the show if you're brave enough to share some of those problems, and we can work through them with you live if you're really brave. If you're not, just email us like everyone else. So, but otherwise, thanks for listening and tuning in, and we'll catch you very soon. All the best. Bye.